name was added back
within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
and we invited you
Switch
in.
to the video.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome.
The name was put back within 40 minutes of getting caught, red-handed. And if you think this is just another Washington moment that goes nowhere, stay with me, because what happened in that hearing room is going to make your blood boil. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why powerful people are very, very nervous right now. Let's set the scene. February 11th, 2026, House Judiciary Committee. Attorney General Pam Bondi is sitting in the hot seat testifying before Congress. The room is loaded. Epstein survivors are sitting in the gallery, dressed in white, watching every single word. Cameras everywhere, press everywhere, the whole country watching. And then Thomas Massie steps up. Now, if you don't know Massie, here's what you need to understand. He is not a showman. He is not there to make a speech or get a quip for social media. He is a former engineer. He thinks in facts and systems. When Thomas Massie asks a question in a hearing, it is because he already knows the answer and he is walking you straight into a trap. He has spent the 2 days before this hearing locked inside a secure reading room at the Justice Department. He wasn't scrolling through summaries. He wasn't reading headlines. He was in there going through the actual unredacted Epstein files, the ones Congress ordered to be fully released, page by page. And somewhere in those files, buried in an FBI document, he found something. A name that should have been visible to every American. A name the Justice Department had quietly blacked out. And now he was sitting across from Pam Bondi, that document in his hand, ready to burn it all down. If you've been following the story, if you're sick of watching powerful people escape accountability, then you're in the right place. Hit that like button right now and let's get into it, because this is one of the most important moments in this entire Epstein investigation, and most of the media is barely talking about it. Before we get to the hearing, you need to understand how we got here, because this moment didn't happen by accident. Go back to November 2025. Thomas Massie, a Republican, and Ro Khanna, a Democrat, came together and introduced the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Two members of opposite parties, standing together and saying, enough, no more hiding, no more protecting powerful people, release everything. The law was clear. The Justice Department was required to hand over all Epstein-related records. No redactions, no exceptions, no carve-outs for rich people or powerful names. Everything. Congress passed it, the president signed it. So when the deadline came, the files had to be released. And the Justice Department did release them. But here's the catch. They released them full of redactions. Thousands of them. Pages and pages of blackouts. And here's the part that made people furious. The victims' names were left in the open, exposed. But the names of powerful men, men with money, men with connections, men the FBI had flagged in their own investigation, those names were hidden. Read that again. Victims exposed. Powerful suspects protected. Massie and Khanna went public. They called it a cover-up. They threatened the Justice Department with prosecution. They said, you violated a law that was written specifically to stop you from doing exactly this. And still, nothing changed. So on February 11th, Massie walked into that hearing room with the evidence in his hands. Done waiting. Done asking nicely. Done being ignored. Here's how it went down. And I want you to picture this clearly, because the details matter. Massie gets his turn to speak. He doesn't rush. He doesn't raise his voice. He picks up the document. FBI letterhead, lines highlighted in red, and he holds it up to the camera. Steady, deliberate, like a man who knows exactly what he's holding and exactly what it means. He looks at Bondi. Attorney General Bondi, he says, I want to ask you about something I found while reviewing the Epstein files this week. He sets the document down in front of them and keeps his eyes on her. This is an FBI document. It lists people connected to the Epstein investigation. And one of those people, one specific individual, was identified by the FBI itself as a potential accomplice. Not a victim, not a witness, a potential accomplice. He pauses. The room is completely still. But when your department released this document to the public, that name was blacked out. My question to you is simple. Why is the name of the potential Epstein accomplice being hidden from the American people? Now think about what just happened. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just asked a question so specific, so direct that there was no way out. Either you answer it or you look like you're hiding something. Either way, Bondi was already losing. The room felt it. You could see it on people's faces. The survivors in white sitting in the gallery watching. The reporters leaning in. The staff members. Suddenly, very still, Bondi shifted in her chair. Small movement, quick glance at her team. That glance said everything. She was looking for a lifeline. She went for the classic move. Talk about the process instead of answering the question. Congressman, as I've stated repeatedly, the Department of Justice worked day and night to release these documents on time. We balanced transparency with the need to protect victims and comply with ongoing investigation requirements. Massie didn't blink. I didn't ask about your process. I didn't ask about your timeline. I asked about one name, one specific name in one specific document. Why was it redacted? Bondi tried again. There are multiple possible reasons for a redaction. Privacy concerns, grand jury rules, ongoing investigations. This person, Massie cut her off, voice firm and flat, is not a victim. They are not a protected witness. They are someone the FBI identified as a potential accomplice. So let me ask you one more time, why is that name hidden? And then he said it out loud, on camera, on the record. Les Wexner, Les Wexner, Les Wexner, billionaire, former CEO of Victoria's Secret, the man who handed Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney over his entire financial empire. A man whose connection to Epstein is not a rumor, not a theory. It is documented fact. A man who, according to the FBI documents sitting in Massie's hands, was flagged as a potential accomplice in the investigation, and his name had been blacked out. Bunda scrambled. I believe Les Wexner's name appears more than 4,000 times in the documents we released. Massie cut straight through it. I know. I read the files. His name appears thousands of times. But in this document, the specific FBI document where he is identified as a potential accomplice, his name is redacted. That is what I'm asking about. That one document. That one redaction. Why? Someone on Bondi's team was typing furiously, searching, trying to find a way out. Bondi looked at her papers. If there was an error in that redaction, we will review it and correct it. Massie leaned forward. This is the moment. This is what you rewind and watch again. Attorney General, I am glad you said that, because about 40 minutes ago, after I raised this issue publicly, your department quietly removed the redaction. His name is back in the document now. He held up another paper. Let me be completely clear about what just happened here. I caught your department hiding the name of a billionaire who was identified by the FBI as a potential Epstein accomplice, and within 20 minutes of me catching you, the redaction disappeared. You fixed it only because you got caught. The room erupted. Not screaming. Something more powerful than that. The sound of realization. Reporters scribbling, cameras locking in, staffers frozen, survivors in the gallery, watching every second of this. This wasn't politics anymore. This was a confession, not with words, but with action. The redaction was removed the moment the spotlight hit it. That tells you everything. I want to stop here for a second because I think this is the most important question in this entire story. Not was the name hidden, we know it was. Not did they fix it, they did, but only when forced to. The real question is the one Massie asked next. Who made the decision to hide Les Wexner's name in the first place? That is the question that makes powerful people sweat, because someone sat down, looked at an FBI document that flagged a billionaire as a potential Epstein accomplice, and made a deliberate choice to black that name out before the public ever saw it. That was not an accident. That was not an oversight. That was a decision. And Bondi didn't answer it. Instead, and this is where things get ugly, she attacked. Congressman Massie, I find it very interesting that you're asking these questions now. You were very quiet when Merrick Garland was sitting in this chair. Where were all these questions then? Massie's face didn't move. He had seen this coming a mile away. I'm asking them now. You're the Attorney General. You're sitting in that chair. You approved these redactions. Answer the question, who decided to hide Les Wexner's name? Bondi pushed harder. Despite being a Republican, you've done nothing but oppose this president at every opportunity. You have Trump derangement syndrome, Congressman. Massie came right back. I wrote the law you violated. I'm not asking about the president. I'm asking about a billionaire your department protected in a federal investigation document. Answer the question. Tell me, does that sound like someone who got a real answer? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're following this story because you believe accountability has to mean something, subscribe right now. because this story is just getting started and we're going to cover every single development. There are two kinds of silence in a congressional hearing. There's the silence of someone who can't answer because the information is legally protected or classified or tied up in an active case. That silence has a shape to it. People nod, they understand. And then there's the silence of someone who won't answer because the truth is more dangerous than saying nothing. That silence feels different. It sits heavy. People feel it in their gut. Everyone in that room, every reporter, every staffer, every survivor sitting in white in that gallery knew exactly which silence they were watching. Bondi tried one more deflection. Why didn't you ask Merrick Garland about Epstein? He sat right there, twice, and you said nothing. Massie didn't even flinch. I'm asking you, under oath, today, did you personally approve the redaction of Leigh Wexner's name in that FBI document? Yes or no? And that's when Bondi broke, not with the truth, but with something uglier. I will not sit here and take lessons from a failed politician who spends more time attacking his own party than actually fighting for his constituents. Failed politician. She called a sitting United States congressman a failed politician, live on camera, in front of Epstein survivors, in front of the national press. Let that land for a second. She didn't say, we'll investigate. She didn't say, I'll get you that answer. She didn't even say, I don't know. She reached for the most personal, most desperate attack she could find because she had nothing else left. When you run out of answers, you go after the person asking the questions. That's the oldest trick in the book, and everyone watching saw it for exactly what it was. Massie smiled. Small. Controlled. The smile of someone who just watched their opponent fold. Thank you, because you just proved my point. I'm not a failed politician. I am a sitting member of Congress who wrote the law you violated. And you just spent 6 straight minutes attacking me instead of answering why a billionaire co-conspirator's name was hidden from the American people. He let it sit. I think the American people can figure out what that means. So where does this go from here? Because this is not over. Not even close. Massie and Conahep put the Justice Department on notice. They are threatening mandatory compliance proceedings, a tool Congress can actually use to force government agencies to obey the law. We're talking potential fines, potential jail time for non-compliance. This is not a strongly worded letter. This is a legal mechanism with real teeth. And here's a number that should be making headlines right now but isn't. The Justice Department has released 3 million pages out of the 6 million it was ordered to hand over. Half the files gone, missing, unaccounted for, still being withheld from the American people. Think about that. They were willing to hide the name of a billionaire in a document flagging him as a potential accomplice, and they only put it back when they got caught live on camera. If that's what they were willing to do with a name that appears 4,000 times in the released documents, a name people could have found anyway, what do you think is in those other 3 million pages? What names are in there? What connections? What decisions were made about what the public would and wouldn't be allowed to see, and by whom? Those are the questions that matter now. And the fact that Bondi's only response to those questions was to call Massie a failed politician tells you everything about how worried they are. The survivors in that room were there for a reason. They didn't show up in white by accident. They came to watch. They came to witness. They have been waiting for years for someone with power and evidence to stand up in a room full of cameras and say, we see what you're doing. We caught you, and we're not going anywhere. Thomas Massie gave them that moment. He didn't need to yell. He didn't need to perform. He walked in with the receipts, asked the questions no one else was willing to ask, and when the cover was blown, when the Justice Department quietly removed that redaction thinking no one would notice, he held it up for the entire country to see. 20 minutes. That's how long it took from the moment Massie went public to the moment the redaction disappeared. 20 minutes is all it took to prove that the redaction was never necessary. It was never about protecting victims. It was never about protecting victims. It was never about grand jury rules or privacy concerns. It was a choice, a deliberate, calculated choice to protect a powerful, connected billionaire from public scrutiny in a federal sex trafficking investigation. And when that choice got exposed, they folded in 20 minutes. Think about what that means. Think about the other 3 million pages. Think about all the choices that haven't been exposed yet. Think about all the names still blacked out in documents the public hasn't even been allowed to see. This is what accountability actually looks like. Not the version they sell you on cable news. Not two people yelling past each other for ratings. Real accountability. One person with evidence, specific questions, no wiggle room, and a willingness to sit in that moment no matter how uncomfortable it gets until the truth has nowhere left to hide. What Massie did was not complicated. He didn't need a team of lawyers or a massive political machine. He needed 2 days in a reading room and the courage to say the name out loud on camera. Les Wexner. The name of a billionaire flagged by the FBI as a potential Epstein accomplice, a name a sitting attorney general's department chose to hide, is now part of the public record because one congressman refused to let it stay buried. And the fact that it took a Republican to hold a Republican attorney general's feet to the fire when the whole political system is designed to protect its own makes this even harder to dismiss. This wasn't a partisan attack. This was the law being enforced by the person who wrote it. Full stop. That clip is still moving across the internet right now. More people are seeing it every hour. The survivors are watching, journalists are digging, and somewhere inside the Justice Department, people are having very uncomfortable conversations about what happens next, because Massie and Kana are not done. The compliance proceedings are coming, the pressure is building, and half the files are still missing. This story is not slowing down. It's picking up speed. So here's what I need from you. Right now, before you scroll away, if you believe that powerful people don't get to hide behind black bars in government documents while their victims' names are left out in the open, share this. Send it to someone who needs to see it. Because the only way this kind of accountability keeps moving forward is if enough people are watching and refusing to look away. The moment we stop paying attention is the moment they think they can go back to hiding names. Don't give them that chance. Stay locked in. We're following every single development, and this is only the beginning.